and to answer the other question, what I was thinking about is what makes people leave black women. We are being bombarded constantly with an image of what black womanhood is, right? And so we hear black women aren't sexually adventurous enough, but somehow we're super loose, right? So we're naked every time you see us on TV, but when you get us home, we don't do the things that quote unquote other women do. Just the stress of everyday life of what black men, black women, black families engage in, that comes home, we come home together, and that creates serious stress. So arguments trigger in a minute, heartbreak can trigger in a minute, the anguish gets risen up in all of us. And so if I'm having a difficult day and you're having a difficult day and we're battling for power in our own relationship, when we both have to battle for power at work, it creates a dynamic that just becomes very unhealthy, and it might be a little bit easier to leave. Also, I think black women have just not been lifted up as something to be adored, right? So white women are to be worshipped, to be adored, to be protected. The ideal of what it means to be a lady is it's put on white women also, right? And opposite or opposed to that, it's black women are strong, we're something to be broken like horses, we're to be, we're aggressive. It's all of this stuff that we're not able to kind of decipher between. The competition isn't white women, the competition is an image that a system that puts images of what women should be. And that's where the energy, I think, should go towards that. So how do we just dismantle these sexist images that are holding both of us back and not get into bickering within the race or across races?
Well said, well said.
Very well said.
Okay, so I actually wanted to just change it up a little bit because you raised a point as far as two people of the same ethnicity dealing with different things and then coming together. But what happens when you're dealing with two people of different ethnicities? And when I say, I don't necessarily want to say race, because ethnicity is very important also, because we deal with things. We can both be, this color, and my significant other can be from Africa, Egypt or something to that degree. And we deal with social, economical status things as well. But specifically when you're dealing with white and black now, what happens when we have two different upbringings? How does that look within a relationship?
So I think, I'm sure this is what Stephanie talks about in her book, and you spoke about it earlier, is just having some common core values, right? So that's what anchors any relationship, we know that. And then having that authentic conversation to really be able to address the issues that we spoke about in a previous session that comes up. So the friction of, again, so I work in corporate America, and I work in technology a lot, as well as the work that I do in community. And one of the dynamics that I face all the time is that people don't perceive that I'm the person in charge, right? So I'm in the workplace, I'm usually going to be the only woman in the technology or in the corporate arena, and I'm usually in charge of what I'm doing. But when I'm on a team, questions get deferred to people who are white, who are male, and all of those dynamics. And then when I come home, and let's say I'm in a relationship with someone who is white, to be able to, I've had challenges in even addressing that, right? So always being reminded, well, maybe you should change your approach. Even when black women change our approach, even when we lose the weight, straighten the hair or go natural, whatever it is, that everybody's telling us to do, there's still a pushback that does not honor black womanhood. And if we don't deal with that straight up, then black women are left to feel deficient. Black women are always having to work on ourselves as opposed to forcing society to work on itself.
Okay. Next question. And I believe this question is from a Caucasian sister. For white women who choose to date black men, what advice do you have for these white women to heal any disparate relationships with their black sisters? That's a great question.
Okay, I'll take it. First of all, you have to understand that we have a long history together, and most of it is bad. We're changing it now, but we have a long history, so we have to understand that. And if you can understand where the black woman is coming from, what is the source of her pain, or what is the source of her issue with your relationship, then it'll be easier to kind of handle and take. But ultimately, you're just responsible for your relationship and for your love. You can only go so far to change another person's perception of what you're doing in your relationship. Now, some women, you can talk to them and say, okay, I love him and it's okay. But there's still that woman out there that you will meet that no matter what you say, it's never going to be all right with
She's
her.
not gonna like you.
That's right.
And she might try to cut you on the L. So I'm teasing.
So all I can say is to understand why some women might be upset about your relationship, but to concentrate on your relationship and just to move forward.
So ignore the stares, ignore the name.
Ignore and understand.
Understand where it's coming. Now, I have to ask you about that because, I mean, do I want to understand why you don't like me? There are people in everyday life that don't like me, but it has to be a level of respect. So just advocating for this question, am I supposed to understand when you look at me and go, what's that bitch doing with him?
No, that one you would ignore. But if you have friendships, you know, with women that may have a problem with the fact that you might be dating someone that they want, you know, then you want to take the time and the effort to kind of understand where they're coming from.
So that would be if you're my friend, if I'm of Caucasian descent and you're my friend and you're African American, and I see that you feel uncomfortable when we're around, understand that as an African American, you have endured certain things to make you feel uncomfortable around me.
Correct.
Right. Okay, all right.
I'd like to add to that as well. I agree that the history is very, very, very long, and so a couple of things I think about healing relationships is you can be in a relationship as a white sister with a man of color, but can you speak up against racism? Just because you're in a relationship does not mean that you're willing to speak up against oppression. So we're in the corporate room or the workplace. Are you advocating for me to get the promotion just as much as you would for anybody else? So it's putting yourself on the line, not just in your personal relationship, but when injustices happen. Are you out there when Trayvon gets shot? Are you with me, or are you, wow, I'm really sorry for that? Are you mentoring? Are you doing all the things? Are you helping me to get access to some of the same resources and privileges that you have? And not in a I pity you type of way. It's not about that. It's about just equity and fairness across the board. So I think that's one of the ways in kind of knowing the history. And I think what you're saying is, if we are walking down the street, you better know something about why you're getting those stares. You better know who Emmett Till is, right? You better know what it means for black men to be with black women and how their lives are compromised, white women, and how their lives are compromised just by proximity. If you don't know that, then you are playing games, and you can get this brother right here killed. That's just like the real to real to real. It's not even about whether or not she might personally love him. There's a history that other people are responding to constantly. So we have to know what those stares. I don't have to take it on, and she doesn't have to take it on, but she better know something about it if she plans to raise black children with the black man, or if she's going to be seriously committed in a relationship.
You raised a
Well said.
lot.
Yes, well said.
Well said. Okay, so we have 2 more questions. Okay. Okay, this is actually, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll raise the question in case you guys want to add to it. Here's the question. Do you think black women should date outside of their race exclusively? I want to add to that and say that, do you think that black women should date outside of their races exclusively because there is an increase of black men that are dating outside of their races exclusively? Someone raised a point that oftentimes when a black man elevates in profession and he's in an influential position, he will often choose to date a white woman over a black woman. So in that case, is it fair to say that black women should date outside of their races as well?
Is that for anybody?
That's for anybody to jump in. It's a loaded question, right?
It is loaded, but in short, I don't think so. I don't think so. And as far as black men who have reached an elevated status in life, marrying outside their race, I once heard an attorney say that you can get a statistic to support any argument you want. There's a lot of black men who have been elevated who have remained black. And there's a lot that have gone outside of their race. To go outside of your race exclusively because the man is doing it is kind of playing the victim role. Now, if you're going outside the race because you want to do it, because of your experiences, that's a whole different thing. But if you're looking around and you're just saying, well, they're doing it, so why don't I do it? Then I think that's kind of a cop-out. And it works vice versa, because there are a lot of women, black women, who who are upwardly mobile, and they're now dating outside the race. And for us black men, we're like, hey, but I'm not going to follow just because I see that happening, because the playing field is shrinking, and it is.
Yes.
So I think no, I don't think that's a good reason to do that. And I'll add, if you say you're going to do anything exclusively, you're limiting yourself. You're absolutely limiting your options.
Great. Thank you. All right. This is a great question. And this is for anyone to jump in. Do you believe that white women are more tolerant of infidelity and other issues in relationships than black women? If so, why?
Nobody takes a black man back like a black woman, right? So, and I mean that. Black women ride or die very hard in the community. It's just a reality, right? There are certain things that we won't tolerate, and I think every woman has her threshold, but this myth that black women just kind of, whether it's just kind of throw you to the side, is a stereotype. It is not true. Nobody lifts you up like black mothers, black sisters. People, we're just really in the corner of our community. And so I just want to just kind of shut that down, that we are too difficult and we don't put up with infidelity. We put up with things differently. I want to be in a relationship where there isn't a broken trust and betrayal, and I'm going to hold you accountable. And if you can't rock with that, then we don't need to be rocking together. That's where it's really at.
Yes.
And I don't think I definitely think black women have proven that we are there for our people like no other.
Thank you.
Could I just jump in there?
Yes.
I don't have a lot of experience with white women in this, but what I do know
Is I don't know of anyone more loyal than a black woman. I mean, absolutely. Just, and women are different from person to person, but as a whole, I have to concur with everything she just said. The loyalty is so strong, sometimes to a flaw, but it cannot be denied.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Stephanie?
I can't add to that. But basically, the hip hop term "ride or die" came from somewhere, and I totally agree with my panelists here. Black women are very loyal, and we will, go to the pit of hell with you as long as we think that, we're going to be together in the end. So I'm not sure if any race tolerates infidelity more than the other, but what I can say is that black women are always at your side when you're at your lowest.
Beautiful. Well said. Well said. So, in wrapping up this segment, because we ran through a lot of questions, that ends up questions. In a world that's forever changing, every second, every microsecond, in a melting pot that we're living in, especially Brooklyn. Brooklyn has become like the Mecca of just like anybody to come and make their dreams come true. Now, before it used to be like the city. Now it's Brooklyn. So in a world that's ever changing, what are some things that we can take away from this segment as far as moving forward? I heard a lot of understanding. I heard a lot of conditioning, past histories, a lot of misconceptions of things. What are some things that you can give to the audience and the viewers at home that are considering questions as it relates to race and relationships to move forward productively?
Well, at the very end of the day, mine is very short. Your relationship is your own. No one has, no one owns it besides yourself. So you kind of have to find the love of your life the best way that you can. And if racism is real and it affects our everyday lives, and we just have to be conscious of that and kind of push forward, move forward, transform, reinvent, and change.
Right.
Well, it's been said two things about the image and about adoring a black woman, and I really want to direct my comments to the black men. There's an image that's being pressed in our face of what a black man is supposed to be. And it's totally off base. It's totally off base. And unfortunately, there are too many, not everyone, but there are too many of our young black men trying to live up to this unattainable image. And it creates within a relationship havoc. I don't care what the race, what the color. And this is by design, because strong black love, there's nothing stronger than that.
Yes.
And this is one of the obstacles that I believe that is deliberately placed against black on black love, that we can have infighting, and it starts with the men. So the image that young men are trying to aspire to, we need to really reel that in and get some common sense to that. Because if we are not adoring our black sisters, and I have 4 sisters, I have lots of friends, and I always say the most important thing that I have a daughter. The most important thing that I'm looking for is adoration. Anybody can love. Love is, that's important.
Correct.
But when somebody adores my daughter, then I know that he's going to be the man, every bit of the man that he can be. So you don't see that in the image that is being pushed down. You don't see black men adoring sisters the way they should be.
Yes.
And so I think the image that we try to, that's being projected us, we have to reject it and then go back to what it's supposed to be.
Thank you. Thank you. You raised a lot of good points. Thank you very much for sharing. You stepped up to the plate. Thank you. Monica?
I agree again with the co-panelists here, and I think we have more examples of healthy black families and healthy black relationships than we actually led on to believe. So history actually shows that we tried to be together even during enslavement, that we really sought to have our families be strong, to have extended families, to really, so what I want the community to be left with is to just look at the many ways in which your families and our collective families have really tried to keep it together, and to pull from those strengths and those beauties and that creative genius that we have as a community and build upon that. We cannot build upon a shaky foundation, and so the stereotypes, the oppression, it cannot sustain us. It absolutely cannot sustain us. So we have to really go back to the source, whether that's a spiritual source or a community source, and really get to know ourselves and know the truth about who we absolutely are.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Monica. Thank you. I want to thank all of my panelists for joining me for our previous series, which were amazing, and for the Q&A segment as well. Thank you so much, Ms. Monica Dennis, Mr. Rocky Walker, and Ms. Stephanie Small. And I am your host, Ms. Darlene A. Anderson of Darlene's Utopia, and this is the conclusion of DU's Conversation Series 12. Race and relationships. Until next time, family, be well. That was beautiful. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us, family, for DU's Conversation Series 12. That concludes our conversation here. But let the conversation continue at home. And until next time, check us out at darlenesutopia.com.